C# arrays allow you to have collections of any type, and as collections, you have many functions available to manipulate them as a group. In this lesson, I'll show you how to create and manipulate arrays. So let's say you have an array of integers in which you're keeping scores of objects, for instance, star ratings like at Amazon, 1 to 5. You say integer, and these brackets indicate that it's an array. Star ratings equals, and then just go ahead and open up the brackets, and 5 is good, 3 is average, 1 is not so good, 2, 4, 5, 3, 2, 5, for instance. So now we have a group of integers in an array. Let's display them. For each, that was tab, star rating in star ratings. This should be plural here. Star ratings. There we go. And CW tab. Let's display it with a variable star rating. And if we run it, we see that it displays each one. Or you could have an array of prices. Let's say, and prices are currencies, you always store them in decimal, equals, and then, for instance, 39.99, 29.99, another 29.99, and a 9.99, for instance. What is this that we see? Errors? What could it be? What it's saying here is that it can't convert the type double into decimal. That means that the compiler is looking at this and assuming that it's of type double. If you meant it to be a decimal, do exactly what it says, but at the end of this message, put an M suffix on it. So we just have to put M's here. And now these are decimals. And we can display these. Let me copy this. I'm pressing Control L, because we actually don't need that. And I'm going to copy these two lines and bring them down here and just change them. So price in prices, and print the price, and this is price. So when we look at it, we see the 4 prices. Simple enough. You can also have an array of strings. So string array, let's say names equals, we have Jim, Alice, Angie. And this time let's loop through them in a for loop. So I type for tab. For I equals 0, I is less than or equal to names.length. And the length of names is 1, 2, 3. So I will start at 0 and go while it's less than 3, which means it'll go 0, 1, 2, which is exactly what we want. We don't need these lines. We can just tab in here. And right line, the name is, and we'll display it. We're going to have to do names here and then get the item out of the array with the index. And let's look at it. And we have the same thing with the misspelling, which we can easily change. And we see that it displays the names as well. So here we have an array of integers, an array of decimals or currency values, and an array of strings. And we display them in 2 different ways here with for each and for. Now let me show you some interesting functions that you have with arrays. For instance, you can say, let's write, we had this a bit above with the length, there are this many star ratings. How would we get that? We say star ratings dot length, and that'll tell us how many. So when we look at it, it says there are 9 star ratings, and there are indeed 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We can also get the first item out of an array like this. The first star rating is this. Star ratings dot first. We'll look at that. The first star rating is 5. And it is indeed 5. The same thing works with last. I'm doing Control-C, Control-V. The last star rating, last, is 5. Oh, it also happens to be 5. If we change this to 3, we see that it is indeed 3, 3, 5, 5. We can also get the average of, for instance, integers or decimals in an array. So we could say the average price is this. Prices average. And what is the average price? The average price is $27.49. You can also get the total. The total price is this. Prices, sum. And we have the sum of all of the prices. Another very useful function that I use all the time is join, which allows you to list out the items in an array like this. The names are this. You say string, join. Now it's asking for a separator. We'll just give it a comma separator. And the array is names. Look at it. And it says here the names are Jim, Alice, and Angie. This will also work even if you have integers. I'm doing Control-C, Control-V. The prices are prices. And look at it, and there they are. The opposite of join is split, which I also use very often. Let me show you how you do this. Used often in string parsing if you get data from, for instance, a text document. Let's say you have a title list of books, C# cookbook, semicolon, vb.net, made simple, semicolon, asp.net, MVC, secrets. So that's the title list. And now what I want to do is get an array of strings with this as the first item, this as the second item, and this as the third item. That is, the separator is a semicolon. So here's how you do it. You say string array titles equals title list dot split, and it's asking you for a character separator. Actually, it's asking for a character array, which allows you to split on, for instance, semicolons and commas, which is very useful in certain instances, but a character will also work. For instance, we have here semicolon is our separator in our list. So now we will have a list of, or an array of title items that come from this list, and let's display it. Let me write this for each all in one line. Title in titles, show the title. And you see that these titles are in an array of strings. Very useful, join and split. But before I end this lesson on arrays, I want to show you how to do multi-dimensional arrays, which are useful, for instance, if you are recording the positions of chess pieces on a chessboard, or, for instance, a battleship board, if you've ever played Battleship. What we're doing here is saying we have an 8x8 grid of strings. 8 times 8 is 64. So we have an array of 64 strings, and we can access them via these indices. So we can store a string at 5, 4, or at 7, 2, and then access it again with those numbers. So this would look like this. Let's fill the Battleship board multi-dimensional array with the word miss, because at first all of the squares will be a miss, and then as you play the Battleship game, you hit certain squares and will change then the squares to the word hit. So it works like this. 4, let's call it x, is less than 8, so it's from 0 to 7, which is what this will be too. The indices are 0 to 7 here and 0 to 7 here. So I'm going 0 to 7, and then the same thing, we'll call it y. X and y are standard here, and this is also 8. Now, I need to fill Battleship board x comma y with the word miss. And now I will display the whole board. And we'll do it the same way here. X 0 to 7, or 0 and less than 8. Same thing with y, less than 8. And now I'll print that particular grid box, which is Battleship board x comma y plus a space to keep them separated. So let's look at that. Here we have not the intended effect. It displays them one after another. What I meant here was right, not right line. Right line adds a new line character. Let's try it again. And here we see that we still don't have the desired effect. What we need to do is, after each row, we actually need to have a right line. Now let's look at it again, and we have the desired effect. It is showing column 0, column 1, column 2, and row 0, row 1, row 2, and each of the values in the grid. Now, if we change some of the string values in this grid during the game, for instance, let's say somebody chooses 4, 5, and they got a hit. I'm doing Control-C, Control-V, and let's do 3, 7 as a hit. These values in the multi-dimensional array, which are all miss, these two values are being replaced by hit. If we look at it, we see that they are indeed changed. So multi-dimensional arrays are a very powerful variable type. If you're making, for instance, an adventure game and each one of these is a room, instead of a string object, you could have a particular kind of object. When you get into object-oriented programming, you could see that you could make a room object instead of a string. These are rooms, and the rooms have exits and lead to other rooms, etc. Very powerful. So in this lesson, we only touched upon the large number of possibilities you have with arrays, which, together with generic type collections, are fundamental in C#.